it is even permissible for the man to lick the genitalia with his tongue, meaning it is even permissible for the man to perform a cunnilingus on his wife. The Hanbalis, Malikis, and Shafi'is are of the opinion that oral stimulation is permissible. So they are of the opinion that oral sex is permissible, is halal. And then the eminent Muslim scholar, Dr. Yusuf al-Qaradawi, said, Muslim jurists are of the opinion that it is lawful for the husband to perform cunnilingus on his wife or for a wife to perform the similar act for her husband, and there is no wrong in doing so. But if sucking leads to releasing semen, then it is blameworthy, ay makruh. But there is no decisive evidence to forbid it. So Dr. Yusuf Qaradawi, who is a scholar who studied in Al-Azhar University in Egypt, he said that because there is no clear evidence to prohibit it, that oral sex is halal, it is permissible for both men and for women. Despite there being no explicit prohibition of oral sex in the sacred law, some Arab and Asian Muslims disapprove of the practice due to cultural attitudes towards what is considered acceptable sexual practices. So there are some scholars and some people who are of the opinion that oral sex is not befitting for a Muslim, and it is considered to be, some people say it is disgusting, some people say it is vulva, not vulgar, sorry, some vulgar. Some people say it is an act that is just done by dogs. Mufti Muhammad Ibn Adam al-Kawthari, who authored an excellent book on Islamic Guide to Sexual Relations, he said on the topic of oral sex, the spread of pornography has increased the prevalence of oral sex, and it is now commonly practiced by many couples. It is generally considered contrary to the proper conduct of a Muslim. Most contemporary scholars hold this practice to be disliked. So in his view, it is disliked, but he did not say it is haram. And he's a Hanafi scholar. And also Muhammad al-Jibali in his book, Closer Than the Garments, and he is a scholar, a Salafi scholar, I believe, who studied under Sheikh Albani. He said in his book, oral sex was not one of the known practices of the early righteous Muslims, amongst the Salaf, in his opinion. And then he says, in addition, it is known to be the practice of dogs and the disbelievers. So he was of the opinion that oral sex is something that only non-Muslims and dogs do. And in his book, he also quoted Sheikh Albani, may Allah be pleased with him, who once asked about oral sex, and he replied, we have not heard of anyone doing this except dogs. He said, we have not heard of anyone doing this act except dogs. So again, Sheikh Albani was his teacher. So it looks like he took Sheikh Albani, may Allah be pleased with him, position on that it is not an act that one should do, but there is no evidence to say that it is haram. And I'm in agreement with the scholars, like the Maliki scholars. I follow the Maliki madhab. And when I studied in Egypt and in Al-Azhar in the university, they did not say that it was haram with the scholars I studied with. And I think that I agree with the scholars that say it is not haram, that is permissible, and it is even something which can be a good act because it can help a woman experience not only sexual pleasure but sexual climax, orgasm, because most women do not experience an orgasm via penetrative sex alone. Studies have shown only about 20 to 30% of women regularly experience an orgasm via penetrative intercourse alone. So oral sex can be definitely a great way, a wonderful way to not only please a woman, but also to help her experience the joys of sex. So that's why in my book, I then gave some techniques and advice in terms of performing cunnilingus, especially about, for men to ensure that their wife is comfortable with herself, that he always gives her compliments, encouraging women to ensure that the importance of personal hygiene before the man goes down on her. And then I provided some techniques and tips. I've provided, I think it's about 18, I believe, no, 19 different techniques and tips, like the blowing bubbles technique, the finger eight tongue technique, different techniques for men to perform cunnilingus on their wife. And then also for women, I also provided some excuse me, some techniques and tips on fellatio, however you want to call it, blowjob, giving head. So I've provided like 15 points or techniques or tips for women in order to perform fellatio on their husband. So you can check that if you want to read more. That's in chapter 15 of my book, A Taste of Honey, Sexuality and Erotology in Islam.